The internal wranglings within the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has dragged on for some time now, and it seems to be doing more harm than good for the main opposition party. As one of the major stakeholders in the party, Wike, is yet to get the demand before he's settled out in the PDP. The Rivers State governor is at the center of the crisis following his call for the resignation of the national chairman, Ayu. The Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party, led by ex-Senate President Adolphus Wabara, met with Governor Wike in Port Harcourt over the crisis rocking the party. The meeting, which is part of efforts to resolve the post-presidential primary crisis plaguing the party, was declared inconclusive but remains a work in progress, according to Wabara. So joining us now on the morning show as we discuss the latest move to end the crisis within the main opposition party is Arise News analyst Amadi. Welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you. I'd like to ask, is the PDP getting it right? Because there was another meeting yesterday where Ayu met with members of NWC, and it was a shouting match. So there are too many fires going off, and who's trying to put them out?
Well, thank you very much. I think there are two ways to look at it, really. We know that party leadership, especially when you're dealing with members of the leadership that seem to have more commitment to other strategic group interests than the overall interests of the larger body, it becomes difficult to align everybody. And I think I like to take it in two ways. To be fair to Ayu, he has two options: to resign, as demanded by a minority members of the party, namely Governor Wike and a few of his supporters, or remain in power and find a way to carry on the work of the NWC. And if you look at what happened at the meeting of the NEC, what they did, first, it's not clear to everybody that the controversial payments were actually due process payments. Now, whether they are ethical, whether the parties should spend that amount for housing is a different matter. But let's not forget that the parties are self-generating entities. You know, they raise this money, which is why some, they make their forms so expensive that it even threatens democratic competition. So they raise a lot of money, and of course, they pay themselves. So we can have an argument around whether those payments are ethical, proper in the context of what we know about the Nigerian economy today. But essentially, no debate that these were not bribery, these were essentially approved payments. Now, a few of their members of the NWC now raise this matter as a political fight back. Basically, raise it, submit the money to create a sense in which one can say that this leadership of the PDP is grossly corrupt and add more argument or more fuel to the demand for their ouster. So what they did now to say, you know what, want to have investigation is also a fight back. Unfortunately, at this point that the party is about to roll out or almost rolled out its campaign activities and is facing very serious headwinds from the ruling party, of course, as expected, and now from the second main opposition party, the Labour Party, that's competing for the same electoral constituencies with them, whether in the South, Southeast, North Central, so on and so forth. It's a time for the party to actually put behind these acrimonies. But the problem is, you don't have a crisis without some build-up. You know, the party is weak in terms of internal logic, in terms of how the party leadership was put together. Whenever you have a party leadership come close to primaries, they're going to have a disorganized bunch, because essentially those members were sponsored by various stakeholders who had their eye on the big pie, which is the presidency. So you have some of the Wike boys there, one of Saraki, you have all those big actors, Tambuwa. So when they come together then, the problem is that if they didn't have time, you don't have leadership that were able to create a whole out of this disparate part, you are faced then with a possibility that if you have a rancorous and controversial primary as most of the main parties had, you're going to have the fallout will be that there will be internal friction, and each of those proxies in that NWC that present particular political tendency are likely to become subversives in that build-up. So the IU is facing a very difficult task now, because since it's clear he's not going to step down, no, the NEC has given him a vote of confidence, but then you have to deal with internal crisis. So this is where leadership skills comes in. This is where conflict management and prevention comes in. The question then is, you want to stop digging, not digging more. So you don't want to create more opportunity for those minority, very minor 4 or 5 of them, to find themselves having greater incentive to fire back at the whole, and then you damage more. But at the same time, you don't want to create a slippery slope where you're going to see more such actions. So in a sense, like the youth leader said in the interview, they just have to be consequence. But the question is, how do you calibrate your intervention, the consequence, in a way that you don't cut your face to spite your nose, in which case you gain a momentary relief but end up losing the whole battle. So I think it's really difficult, and we've not seen the level of commitment that a party that's facing an election, having lost twice, PDP has lost the presidential election 2 times, and 3 times will be too many failures consecutive for a party that used to be the ruling party. And what this means is that this is an election that should actually have brought them all together. And this bickering over the primary, which is what all this is all about, in my view, is unnecessary, and maybe mutually assured destruction will be the outcome if nothing is done to stop the fight, in the internal fight. And I think the BOT has started very well, engaging Governor Wike, even though they say there's stalemate. But like the chairman said, an experienced politician and one that has his tempers under control. He made a point very clear that we're not yet there, but we have started talking and we are seeing different perspectives. But the big deal now is, can you converge? Can you expand the pie? Can you because this is all about 2033, 2037. Make no mistake about it. This is not about justice, I've said before. This is about who gains control of the party. Is it possible that the powerful combatants can see the point in narrowing the aspiration and taking less than they bargained at the beginning of this conflict? If they can do that, if they can take half, less than what they want to get, or what in negotiation called the BATNA, the best, with that negotiation, if they can narrow down and say, look, we wanted to get X, but we can get X minus 1, then you're going to see an end of this crisis. But this is really about political interests in 2023 and in 2037, and how the government will be formed if PDP wins. And so the skill sets required here is one of expanding the pie and getting everybody to converge at taking less than they would have taken, in good time.
Well, 2 key points came out of that meeting led by Yochiayu yesterday in Abuja. The point made by Timothy Osadolo, who is the national youth leader, who said that Taufik Arapaja and the 5 others who claimed that they were not aware of the money paid into their accounts was not a bribe, and that it was an attempt to expose the party to opprobrium. And Osadolo is asking that the party may adopt disciplinary measures. The second point was made by Debo Ologunagba in a press statement, saying that, look, the party has investigated and has established that there was no bribe involved, but that, look, these persons, they've ridiculed the party in one newspaper. They mentioned only one newspaper. I don't want to help them amplify that. But that is that about that. But to go to Port Harcourt, the meeting led by Senator Adolphus Wabara of the BOT meeting with Governor Wike. What do you think of Governor Wike's reaction? He said he reaffirmed his membership of the party, and then he made a point about peace and unity, and he said what is important is for the party to win the election, whatever may be the differences internally. Do you think that that offers a window of hope for reconciliation, which Governor Wike himself was talking about yesterday?
I think if you're a PDP supporter, you would be very glad at Wike's seeming, turnaround. He has been considered actually that he's not going to lead the party. And again, look, this is a guy who can beat his chest that he kept this party on in the days of difficulty. So he has a bragging right. He has stakes. I don't see him walk away easily. He has been very clear. What was not clear before now was whether he's going to really support the ticket or not. We knew that he was not going to leave the party, but was he going to support? Now at this meeting, he seemed to have turned around, come back to say, look, we are together. But again, he has the right, the legitimate right, to internally fight to correct an error, whatever he thinks is wrong. So that 3 key points are here. 1, he's a PDP member and wants to remain. 2, he is going to ensure that the party wins the election and puts his feet, his resources, his efforts, and his strategy, intelligence to do that. And thirdly, he is determined to continue to push this, the point about any anomaly, any injustice, any structural imbalance that is in the party, and explore processes in the party to get what he wants, namely get you step down or sacked, whatever. Now, that's legitimate position, and that's good. What is wrong, what has been wrong in the past, is to communicate these grievances in a manner that damages the ticket and the party's effort at getting, one can say, defeat, smuggling out victory from the jaw of defeat. The party has been defeated twice. That's a fact. And once you are in the cycle of losses, you need to do extra more to get to victory. So if he continues in this new spirit and continues to ask questions that can be asked internally, the NWC, the NEC, the caucus, the BOT, we will soon get an answer. And in the nature of politics, he probably will win more people to his side. And in politics, is the art of the possible. So you can wake up in the morning and hear a new script. Once the forces pro an intervention are more and overwhelming than the forces against that intervention, it will happen in politics. In party structure, it's all about where the powerful influences line up. And so, being a minority now, about 5 or so strong members on his side, he could win more people to his side. So that's a good way to go. Now, if you go back to Kokola's statement around investigate, it's clear, like I said, anybody who is open-minded, that there was no corruption, no bribery. If it was paid, maybe at this time that the party, the NWC needed some get a bit of harmony and the coalition around its chairman, maybe it's political advantage that they took to make those payments. Obviously, those payments will have positive impact on the kind of support that NWC members will have on the chairman. It's good political strategy. I've been a chief executive. Even some governors, yesterday the governor of Imo State paid some allowances to workers. Lagos State governor approved at this time a salary increment, which its impact is political, but it's legal. It flows from executive power and respond to economic challenges. So if those payments were made to NWC people based on due process, but it has the impact of kind of making the members more trusting of their chairman and happy with the chairman, that's fair. That's fair use of process to help yourself when you're in crisis. So the question is no longer about corruption or bribery. The question now is, what do you do with these other 5 members? And my argument is the PDP has to tread softly and carefully. What they need most now is unity of purpose. But at the same time, you can't purchase unity of purpose at the cost of insurrection, quote unquote. So if these members are clearly undermining the leadership of the party in flagrant manners, then you need to establish that through a due process investigation and then apportion sanctions. But bear in mind that politics is not about who is right. It's mostly about who survives. So you have to be careful to mete out these sanctions with a view to retaining control, and at the same time with a view to building a fairly strong coalition that can drive the campaign. You're not going to have a perfect, unanimity of will and purpose. Politics is a conflict of will. So even the same party, whether it's APC, PDP, or Labour, you're going to have people who are working in small ways undermining each other. But the real thing here is that those frictions are not, too powerful as to derail where you're going. And so PDP can still have very successful election in spite of all this crisis. And by the way, if you look at the APC, by the way, what has been different is that they have probably a much more, bigger crisis at hand. But those crises are managed outside public view. They don't have media helping them, extend and publicize those crises. But here, the main actors in PDP are persons who are strong, who are eloquent, who have strong media presence, and who have a proclivity to externalize, those grievances. Otherwise, I think the PDP is not under too much internal attack than the APC. And arguably, even the Labour Party that seems to enjoy the best internal condition still has issues they're dealing with, at the level of states who are rejecting some level of imposition on campaign structure. So you're going to have this. Unfortunately, we're going to a campaign where not a major party, including the NNPP that's really facing big crisis. None of them is in a mood where there's significant or expected level of internal cohesion around the leadership.
Well, thank you.
Fortunately, it doesn't seem to have been damaging the mandate much. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Sam Amadi. Power politics, after all, is a struggle, even in the best of circumstances. Thank you very much for joining us on The Morning Show.